Hello darlings, I hope you're all well. My sister bought me a bubble tea. That means I'm happy. Today I'm going to be talking about BPD mania. BPD doesn't stand for bipolar, so it's actually not mania that we're feeling. We have episodes of euphoria, not those types of episodes. It's different to bipolar, and depression is different with BPD. I'm going to be talking about two topics. So if you don't know already, BPD is a mental illness where we find it difficult to manage our emotions. We experience emotions on a more intense level than other people without BPD. It's like a BPD high and it feels very urgent and manic, but it isn't actually mania. Mania is a bipolar term, and a lot of people with bipolar are actually offended that we with BPD will use the word manic and mania. Around 50% of people with BPD also have bipolar. But when BPD euphoria is triggered, it may only last a couple of minutes, or if you're lucky, a few hours. Rarely more than a whole day. We will get these racing thoughts and ideas. We're optimistic, incredibly energetic, and we want everything to be achieved. We want to clean, maybe we're bouncing off the wall, singing, and when we're happy, having a lack of object permanence, we basically forget what it feels like to be sad. I think euphoria can be triggered when we're with like our favourite person. Euphoria is basically a heightened, exaggerated, extremely positive sense of happiness or well-being. I feel whole. You dance, you talk a lot, you'll laugh, sing, all of that. BPD euphoria for me is like the flip side of BPD pain. People with BPD are generally very exceptionally enthusiastic, idealistic, joyful, loving, but we can also be easily overwhelmed even by happy emotions. I want to talk about some negative emotions and behaviours that can happen when we're feeling euphoric. Excessive happiness might turn into anger or irritability. High self-esteem could turn into grandiosity, like a god complex. Exuberant energy could turn into distractibility. Increased goal-directed activity could turn into a diminished need for sleep. Talkativeness could turn into racing thoughts. Impaired insight could turn into increased risk-taking. Increased psychomotor activity could turn into financial extravagance. A high libido could turn into sexual promiscuity. Increased confidence could turn into not being able to be alone, hanging out with friends 24/7. I really can't relate to this one. That's a big BPD trait. For some, like, it could turn into drug abuse, outbursts, disordered eating. Because when we're sad, we think we'll never be happy. When we're happy, we'll never be sad. Thank you, object permanence, for that one. Most people think euphoria is always a good thing. Euphoria in the context of a psychiatric condition, it could be accompanied with restlessness, hallucinations, dissociation, disorientation, confusion, paranoia, and mood swings. But when euphoria is in the context of a psychiatric condition, it's obviously going to be different to someone who's neurotypical. When we're feeling this happy, we do love life and everything's perfect, but we're also prone to dysphoria. It's a state of profound unease and dissatisfaction, and it can happen whilst we're manically high. If we're very euphoric and we're hanging out with someone, everything's 10 out of 10, we might get a lingering kind of feeling of unease. We're very sensitive to others' emotions as well. We also have this thing called rejection sensitivity. So when someone we love isn't as hyped about something we love, we can easily become depressed if someone's mood doesn't match yours. It can feel like the world's ending, and I know it's a bit dramatic, but it kind of just feels like that. It can happen multiple times a day where we go very happy and then we crash and feel depressed, or we've had a literal mental breakdown and then randomly we will get this burst of extreme happiness. Now I'm going to be talking about BPD and depression, and how depression hits very different when you have BPD. In a study they found 83% of patients with BPD also met the criteria for major depressive disorder. Depression isn't just sadness, it impacts your ability to go to work and school, to function, to shower. Our depression and BPD symptoms go hand in hand, and sometimes the symptoms overlap. Chronic emptiness, stress-related paranoia, dissociative symptoms. Depressed people with BPD can't choose to be happy. Happiness is a choice with people with healthy brains. Our brain, your brain, however, I don't think is healthy. Otherwise, why would you be obsessed with googling mental illness? Don't watch too many mental health videos, because I feel like sometimes it doesn't help. That's another topic. Our brains aren't fully functioning because we're depressed and we have BPD, so we can't just choose to be happy. But I do believe there are some things that can lighten the burden of having BPD and depression. Most importantly, you can stop blaming your brain for being in pain and feeling pain, because The guilt and shame you feel only serve to double your suffering. Sometimes we get these thoughts which are distorted thoughts, like everything sucks, which is an overgeneralization and it's not inherently true. There are choices you can make where you can just ignore them and just think, oh, it's a passing thought. Identifying emotions and communicating them effectively is so hard because emotions are so confusing and obviously more than one emotion can occur together. But treatment is so possible for BPD and depression. Like, it's so treatable. I don't want to go into how depression with BPD feels as much as I went into euphoria because it might be hard for someone without BPD to understand, but it feels like we're grieving, even if it's over something very minor. I watched Dr. Fox's video on BPD and depression. I'll link it below. He says treatment for depression doesn't lessen BPD symptoms, for example, antidepressant. Treatment for BPD, like DBT therapy, does lessen depression symptoms.
That just had depression, okay? People with borderline personality disorder were twice as likely to have taken antidepressants, 2 times more likely to have received an anti-anxiety medication, and more than 6 times likely to have received mood stabilizers. And they are more than 10 times likely to have used antipsychotics.
He also says BPD is larger than our depression and it's our core structure, but your depression is your surface structure. Our medication affect our surface structure, but it doesn't affect our core structure, which is why therapy and things like DBT is so important for our daily functioning for BPD. Crisis survival tips, all of that. I did a series on DBT, so definitely watch some YouTube videos on DBT. So I think I've said everything I wanted and I hope you got something from this video. We often do punish ourselves for having intense emotions, but when you realise it's not your fault, you just have like a strange structure of your brain. Maybe you should find more acceptance of yourself with that. Thank you so much for watching.